First of all, just looking at Goose itself, you can see it's kind of a chat-based interface, so user can ask their question down here, add additional attachments for context as well. And I want to go into the settings, because I think this kind of highlights some of the things we touched on in the earlier slide, where you can hook up any model. So again, Goose isn't actually a large language model. It's just a host to run all these different types of models, which enables a lot of flexibility if you're working with a task where you know one model really excels, say like GPT-4o for creative work or Claude 3.5 Sonnet for coding. You can kind of switch back and forth based on the task you're doing. And then we have extensions, which are basically synonymous with an MCP. It's the MCP that allows the extension to work. And so you can see here we have, we'll be using Google Drive in this demo, developer tools, which interacts with my computer, as well as then the Snowflake one is the main one that we'll be showcasing. But you can see almost any enterprise app or tool that you can think of, you could connect and automate here. And so there's a lot more on our public GitHub repo that others outside of Block have started to contribute to as well to enable that. And so, yeah, I think that's probably good for this.
And just to give you guys an idea of the scale, I think at one point, during some hack weeks and other sessions, Block was churning out dozens of these MCP servers for different applications for different purposes, right? Even two Snowflake MCPs can have slightly different purposes. So the speed at which you can build them and then using them build more is incredible.
Yeah, this is true. It was a frenetic but exciting hack week. Okay, so I just copied this prompt in, so you don't have to watch me type, but we're going to ask Goose, analyze Cash App payment nodes to uncover emerging cultural and economic trends in 2024 compared to 2023. Be hypothesis-driven in your approach and share insights that tell a story about how people are using Cash App. So this is kind of continuing that storyline of, again, this took our public relations team weeks upon weeks to find these trends. We're just going to give Goose a very open-ended question and see what it comes up with. So it's going to OAuth through Snowflake, which is great. That'll ensure that the user actually has access to this table so that we don't accidentally expose confidential data to our users. And you can see here what it's doing behind the scenes is it's fetching the context. So you'll notice that I didn't have to say, go to this table. This is really highlighting the benefit of a semantic layer, which a lot of you, if you were at the product session this morning, semantic layer is huge with AI because it's able to kind of direct those business questions automatically. And so it's fetching context from our Snowflake table, and we'll talk about this a bit more later on as well, but you can see that we have all of this metadata embedded, or basically our data documentation embedded in our table in Snowflake, and that's what's enabling it to know how to interact with this data. So join patterns, what the column definitions are, what everything means. And so you can see that here's what it does. It first comes up with hypothesis 1. It says, I think there's going to be changes because of inflation. So the LLM knows that inflation was a thing that happened from 2023 to 24. Let's look at the data. And it wrote the SQL. So this isn't something that we had to pre-train it on. It just automatically was able to start looking into all of these ideas. And the SQL looks pretty good. It's looking at both years, does a year-over-year comparison, has a second hypothesis. Let's look at entertainment trends. And yeah, we'll let it keep thinking there for a second. Hypothesis 3, emerging keywords and trends. Oh, so this is AI. I don't know if too many Cash Appers are paying each other for AI, but we'll see what the data says. And this is actually a good example then of how we can use Streamlit in collaboration with Goose, because we might see some interesting results around this. Or sorry, yeah, Streamlit. We might see some interesting results, and this might then facilitate us to say, let's go back to our source of truth Streamlit dashboard, Search AI, where we have these pre-built charts, and we can see exactly how many mentions there were. And so you kind of have that like second step of validation. So, okay, you can see it has pretty robust analysis here. I won't read through it all, but it kind of summarizes some economic behavior shifts. So change in gig economy, side hustle, as well as some like change in entertainment. It says high but declining prevalence of AI-related payments. So maybe that is changing with initial hype, maybe stabilizing. I don't even know what people are paying for AI on Cash App, but we can do that as a follow-up case study and maybe share it in our next That's Money trend report. So yeah, summarizes an overall narrative. And then I love this feature as well, suggested next steps for analysis. So let's say that I wanted to dig in and look at, this is a good idea. Let's look at it by different US regions, right? So we might want to just try that. I missed a name, but it should be okay. It's saying, do you want to dig in by geographic area? Do you want to look at seasonal patterns? Correlate different amounts, demographics. So really showcasing how we're starting to make data human here by letting it kind of look at the data as it's querying it, it's understanding it better. Just with these two examples, I think this is already some decent analysis, but you can imagine as you continue to ask questions and refine it, be even more hypothesis-driven as an analyst based on what you know about your company's data, it really can produce some pretty amazing results at scale. We're actually going to, I want to showcase the integration with Google Drive or just other apps. So let's say that we have this analysis and we want to say, let's actually say, thanks Goose, that was a live demo and you crushed it. Honk, honk. I like to honk, honk Goose sometimes because it gives fun results back. But we'll show our gratitude, and then I'll type, let's see, this is, okay, yeah, so you can see, there we go. It's just telling us what it did and giving recommendations for other things. Okay, and then let's say that we want to do, we want to share it with our stakeholders. So summarize all these findings in a document and create the Google Doc. You can imagine you could give it a lot more context too to say like what exactly you want it to summarize. Or another example is you could say synthesize the findings here, send a Slack message to my team, tell them to do X, Y, Z. Or maybe you discover a bug in the data and you say open a Jira ticket, submit it to this team. And so any of those applications that you saw in our extensions, you could create an integration and automate that process. So we'll give it just a second here. And while this is running, well, actually, I'll wait for this to finish, and then I'll...
One thing I'll mention as well, right, and Zach kind of touched on it earlier, is that despite the speed at which Block has been moving, like adopting these tools, there is still a very, very healthy amount of skepticism and I think, caution around how these results are used, right? You're not unleashing the C-suite to immediately start using this and using the information in their reporting calls. They're extremely, extremely responsible with how they use this, going kind of between the more traditional BI of Streamlit and between the generative AI. So for any of you that are kind of looking at your Gen AI journey, I would try to emulate that as well, because although we are making huge strides in that space, it is not yet ready to just, put in front of people and kind of influence decisions without that human input.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like everything here, we cannot take at face value. I would say, I think yesterday or today, Sridhar, CEO of Snowflake, at one point said they're seeing like 90% accuracy with a lot of this data. And that's anecdotally about what we've seen with ours too. So most of the times it is very accurate in the results, but really needs to be fact checked before making business decisions. But I think still definitely useful in kind of starting the thought process, right? So you can see here, it created this document for us, wrote an executive summary, summarized some of the key findings and the overall narrative, as well as included methodology. So this is really kind of just showing how it's able to automate that next step of analytics and socializing the results.